going to make pumpkin chocolate chip cake with cream cheese frosting. You can make this into cake or cupcakes, and I'm actually going to try both today. All right, let's get started. For this recipe, you're going to need 1 stick of non-dairy butter. I'm using Earth Balance, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 flax egg, 1 cup of pumpkin, 1 cup of flour. I'm using whole wheat, but you can use all-purpose or whatever you'd like. 1 cup of non-dairy milk mixed with 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of baking soda, and a half teaspoon of salt. And finally, a cup of chocolate chips if you'd like to add them. For the frosting, you're going to need a half stick of Earth Balance, 6 ounces of vegan cream cheese, 1½ cups of confectioner's sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a half teaspoon of salt. And that's it. We're gonna add our butter, our sugar, the flax egg, and the pumpkin. Now we just need to stir all of these things together. Once those ingredients are whisked together, you can go ahead and add the dry ingredients, alternating them with your non-dairy milk and apple cider vinegar. I'm going to add just a little bit more flour to thicken mine out a little bit. Now I'm going to add a cup of chocolate chips, then you can pour your batter into an 8x8 greased pan. Since I had to add that little bit of extra flour, I decided to redo the recipe using an actual mixer. So now this can be a little taste testing experiment to see how the two turn out differently. So for this one, I creamed my room temperature butter first, my Earth Balance. And then once my Earth Balance was all creamed, I added the sugar in 2 parts. Then I added my pumpkin and mixed everything together. Next, I added my pumpkin pie spice and then my vanilla. After all of these ingredients are mixed together, you can switch off between adding the rest of your dry ingredients and your non-dairy milk mixed with your apple cider vinegar. So for your dry ingredients, you have your flour, your baking soda, baking powder, and salt left over to add, so don't forget those. Finally, you can add your flax egg. And if you'd like, now you can go ahead and add your cup of chocolate chips. As you can see, when I used the handheld mixer and creamed my butter first, I didn't have any problems and didn't need to add the extra flour that I did with the first recipe. But I'll also add that both of them tasted great and not very different from one another, so if you don't have a handheld mixer, it totally is possible to do it without it. I just needed to add that little bit of extra flour, but no one who tried it could tell a taste difference between either of the two recipes, and they both turned out really well, so it can work either way. I put my cupcakes and cake into an oven set at 350 degrees and baked my cupcakes for about 30 minutes and my cake for about 50, but watch them closely so that you don't over or under bake your own. Now let's get started with the frosting. You can start by creaming a half stick of Earth Balance and then adding your 6 ounces of vegan cream cheese to the mixture. Then you can add a half teaspoon of vanilla and a half teaspoon of salt. Now little by little you can add in your 1.5 cups of confectioner sugar. If you want to thin out your frosting, you can add a little bit of almond milk to the mixture, but if you're going to use your frosting to pipe onto cupcakes and you need to make it thicker, you can just add some more confectioner sugar until it's the thickness that you'd like it. I added a little almond milk to the frosting that I'd be putting onto the cake and didn't add almond milk but added more confectioner sugar to the mixture that I put onto the cupcakes. Once your cupcakes and cake are out of the oven, make sure you let them cool off completely before starting to frost them. In order to frost my cupcakes, I put my frosting into a thick plastic bag and cut a tip at the end. Frosting the cake was much simpler. I just spread the frosting out evenly on top of the cake. And I decided to add some extra chocolate chips on top. And now you're all done. You have lovely pumpkin chocolate chip cake or cupcakes, or both, to share with whoever you'd like. So both recipes turned out great. Even though I had to use a little extra flour to thicken out the cake, the recipe I didn't use the mixer for, it still tasted just as great as the cupcakes. In fact, they pretty much tasted the same. So if you don't have a mixer, you can definitely make these without one at home. And if you don't like the idea of vegan cream cheese for the frosting, you could also try out the vegan buttercream frosting that I made and that I used on the Funfetti cupcakes. And you can find that video on my channel. This recipe also tasted great with any frosting at all, so if you want to make more of a loaf, that totally works too. If you try this recipe, I would love to know how it turns out. And if you have any suggestions for things you want me to make in the future, let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!